Hi, everybody. Welcome to Huge Fans. I'm Catherine.
I'm Ed.
It's Liz.
And John.
So this episode, we are doing The Princess Bride. Is everybody excited?
Excited. I'm excited.
I was very excited to have an excuse to really focus on it for a little bit and think about it a lot. Okay, so it was released in 1987, which is so shocking to me. I don't know. Did you guys see it when it first came out? I was not aware of it.
No, definitely did not see it in the movie theaters.
Yeah.
No.
I feel like that was right in the range for my age and the theater going, but I don't know if it was something I would have gone to see with my friends, like on our own, or we would have gone for like a birthday thing. Like I went and saw Clue in the theater for like a birthday, but I don't know if I made it to The Princess Bride.
I definitely saw this on one of the movie channels.
Oh.
Probably, a year plus later. Oh no, you know how I probably really saw it was like a Blockbuster rental.
Well, Warehouse Music and Videos, maybe.
Yeah, warehouse where you worked. Yeah, so rented. So 1987. So we're coming up on the 35th, or this is his 35th year.
It'll
anniversary.
be this year in October. It'll be 35
wow.
years,
Right.
which is crazy.
Yes.
I mean, crazy. So I think that I literally can't remember how I saw it. It must have been a rental because I don't think, I definitely didn't see it in the theater. I don't think I was aware of it. And I know that part of the phenomenon of the movie is that it didn't do super well in the theater. So it wasn't like a big hit.
It wasn't a blockbuster.
Yeah. And then
Right.
over time, basically because the video market started to pick up, people embraced it that way, and then also started buying it for their home collections and giving
Cult
it as
classic,
gifts. Yeah,
and quoting it, and
yeah. So I think that I must have just seen it somehow. It's weird to not remember exactly. John, do you know how you saw it?
No, I have no idea. I was a little young. When
Well,
Oh
yeah.
God, rub it in.
Yeah,
Jeez.
sure.
I didn't say how young. Take it easy. But this is definitely part of my enculturation by you older siblings. So whenever you showed it to me, all of you probably.
Enculturation. I like that word.
Probably not a word.
No, it seems like a word.
You said it so authoritatively. I was like, I need to get out my dictionary. Okay, so, and it was directed by
Rob Reiner.
Right.
Yeah. So
I just want to add one little tidbit. Early on, this was like the second movie he directed that had come out. He had already directed something else
Spinal Tap.
that had come out and directed something else that had not come out yet. But this is the second feature of his, which is that blows my mind.
it is crazy.
Oh, because wasn't he working on Stand By Me at the same time?
I think the Sure Thing he might have.
Sure Thing was in the can and
was
hadn't
in the can.
released yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've now listed all three movies that came out before The Princess Bride.
But even just the idea that his directing was already so amazing.
He didn't have that father, Carl Reiner, to help him out.
Well, and he had been writing and doing other things.
And acting.
Obviously,
I mean, he was in a ton of stuff, yeah.
Obviously, he had been on All in the Family and
with Norman Lear, and there's a connection to Norman Lear.
which is amazing. Okay, so the plan for this episode, we'll give kind of like an overview of.
Oh, we're going to stick to a plan?
No, well, I mean, theoretically.
Okay.
So
It's a bit inconceivable for us to stick to a plan.
Oh, it's already
Yeah, I know.
started.
That's the
Oh my
first
God, here we go. All right, so I'm going to suggest, and then we'll figure out if this works as we go, just kind of go through the movie and our favorite moments and sort of do a little bit of a memory lane of all of that good stuff. And then maybe, I listened to the Cary Elwes book and watched a bunch of behind the scenes stuff
very
online.
cool.
So I want to talk about all that stuff. And we can do that kind of more at the end-ish. Not the end, but do the movie first.
Gosh, I saw him once at the Motion Picture Hospital. I was like, there's Wesley.
Oh my God,
Cary,
really?
but it was like we were in a mutual doctor's office waiting room, so I felt like it was really intrusive to be like, as you wish.
Well, look, I think all of them, and Cary Elwes talks about this in his book a lot, they all get it all the time, and they are really gracious about it, and they understand no, I'm part of a cultural phenomenon, classic, and on a daily basis someone might bring it up to me.
This was early. This was maybe 89 or 90, so it might have been a bit awkward in a doctor's office. I don't know if
been a
he'd
little
gotten to
shocked.
that level of affinity about the project for
A little
himself yet.
surprised.
Yeah, so I held back, but it's always stuck in my mind. They're like, why didn't you say something? It's like, because our father basically raised us to not sort of, bother
Yeah, don't be intrusive.
talent or celebrities in Hollywood because we see them quite often here in their natural habitat.
Yeah, I mean,
The doctor's office would have been very intrusive.
Weirdly, it's
a little
not
weird,
It's
yeah.
not that I took that differently. It's just that I understand exactly that idea of leaving the celebrity alone in their environment. But if you're there and they're there and it's like 40 minutes, you've been sitting at a meal and they've been left alone, you're fine to go say, I'm a big fan, and then leave. They have not been bothered. They had their meal. You're okay. at
Like,
that
I
point.
agree with that. I'm just saying, I was in a doctor's
no, yeah.
office and he was like talking to the nurse. Excuse me, Mr. Ellis, I'm a huge fan. Like, right as he's trying to get a prescription or something. So no, it was not the environment. But yes,
Well,
I
it is-
agree. Otherwise,
yeah, it is funny to think that, like, I do think actors do want to hear that you like their work, but it's not always the right moment.
environment. Yeah. Right.
So
Okay.
maybe,
All right. So that was a little sidetrack.
Okay, which was a good sidetrack. I don't think I ever saw any of the actors in this movie in person ever. So that was a good.
Well, I'm like the hugest fan now of Mandy Patinkin
Oh my god!
because of his Twitter and Instagram account. John knows this very
Wait,
well.
what?
It's true.
I don't know anything about this.
And I kind of really discovered it's him and his wife.
Uh huh.
And their son moved in with them during pandemic, and they have created some really ingenious content.
Oh my god!
Because they've been
really?
married for 40 years, or something crazy. And just their dynamic has given me quite a few belly laughs over
Oh my
this last
gosh, I
2.5
didn't know
years.
this
It's
at
the
all.
kind of ending that you want for the follow-up Dread Pirate Roberts. You want him to have retired and just be living a long life with this old lady, just chilling out someplace.
I adore his wife. Catherine is her name,
Well, which is a great name
with a Y.
Oh, wow.
And she was an actress as well, and now I think she's getting back into it because of the sort of success or the attention they're trying to do TikTok. I mean, it is just
Oh my god!
it is very
They're
very
great.
enjoyable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm looking her up right now. I do recognize her. Oh wow! I didn't realize. Okay, well I'm gonna have to look into it because that sounds very fun.
Oh yes, I love them. Okay, so all right, so sorry,
I guess-
Catherine.
No,
for-
it's. I mean, that's what this is. It's just a nice discussion that it is meant to be a love fest / sharing little tidbits that we have found out about this movie.
So we've all
that's
watched it in different ways, but I will say for myself, I have seen it more times than I can count, whether it be
yeah.
the full movie or stopping and watching scenes from it.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely own at least 2 DVDs and a VHS of it.
You still have VHSs?
I'm not saying I could play them right now, but I
On
do.
what
I like,
device?
it would be hard to get rid of. Like, there's a nostalgia quality where you're like,
Well,
I'm not
your
gonna-
son also
Oh, well, that's
loves
true.
to go through tapes.
He does. Even if he doesn't, play them, he likes to look at them.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I don't know.
I was
So-
speaking of DVDs, I was going through my collection and I happen to have 2 different Blu-rays. One is the 25th anniversary and one is the Criterion collection. I still haven't opened that one up yet, but I found a bonus feature. It was not very exciting, but it was Cary Elwes taking off some makeup that had been in a video where it's him pretending to be someone else as a bonus feature, like on the DVDs.
Oh,
It's all
okay.
weird, all sorts of weird, interesting. Like, I'm gonna watch everything on this disc now. Ooh, what's that?
All right, so it was released in 1987.
87. Well, I also, of course, just did a recent rewatch. Did you guys rewatch it
Yes.
just recently? Okay. I was really confused. I didn't remember that it started like silently. Like there was no music. I was like, wait, I was checking my
'cause
remote.
Fred Savage is just coughing to a black screen.
Yeah, I'm like, what? I didn't remember.
Catherine, can you just relax for a minute?
No, I was like, something is miswired. Somebody has muted this. Eric has the sound bar on. I don't know what's happening. I was very confused.
Yeah, because it's just a black screen and you hear little Fred Savage's cough.
Yeah.
Because he's staying home sick.
I know. And it's funny to think that that's the most dated part of the movie because everything else is sort of timeless. It's Fred Savage's, bedroom and he's playing that old computer game. You're like,
There's a bag of Cheetos behind his head that every time I watch it, my husband, who enjoys food, fixates on that. He's like, that old bag of Cheetos. There would be ants in his room. That old bag of Cheetos. That's the old label. Oh, that old bag of
Are you
Cheetos.
serious?
He goes, why does mom let us eat Cheetos in the room? I'm like, every single
How are they
time.
behind his head in the bed? Like, think about the logic of I'm eating Cheetos. I'm going to drag that bag across my head and face. What?
Oh,
No, you would never do
The other
that.
one,
You
my
would never
husband
do it.
goes, Cheeto dust. Oh my God, like, why do you have Cheeto dust in your bedroom? I mean, he always makes a comment. Now you're going to see it. The Cheeto bag behind Fred Savage.
It's really
the
there. It's
grandson.
very,
I mean,
very
that is
clearly there.
amazing.
Yeah.
And then because he also eats later, but I mean the Cheeto bag is a constant obsession. Tonight I was finishing watching it before we came here, and I just waited because I knew there'd be a comment. He's
Oh
like,
my God.
And I think tonight's was, wow, that old Cheeto bag. That's like the old school Cheeto bag. I'm like, I swear to God, they hadn't updated the packaging yet. It's the old Cheeto bag, Mark. He's like, yeah, that's the old packaging. I'm like, Jesus,
Every time.
Every time
I
there's
have
a comment about the Cheeto bag.
I have a wild thought. How differently do you think the interruptions of the story would have gone if those were fire Cheetos?
Oh my God. Well, okay, wait. I think I commented on maybe during Mark's podcast, which we do, also the podcast
yes,
called
yes.
Family Dynamics. I just hosted a 14-year-old birthday boy's birthday party, which is very on trend for this. And one of the boys asked for fire Cheetos. And I had never had one before in my life. I was like, I'm going to live on the
You
edge.
thought of Fire Swamp.
There's sure
There's the tie-in.
There's the tie-in, John. But I was like, I'm gonna try this, and I tried one. I'm like, okay, it's not too bad. I'll try another one.
Uh-oh.
And then my mouth was like, okay, now it hit me, and I just remember looking. I think one of the dads was dropping the son off, and he was watching me do this, sort of laughing. And I said, "This is a young man's game, Chip, because it is like fire going in, it's be fire going out. I can't even imagine having a full freaking stomach of them." All right, we've gone off on the Cheetos tangent. Like I said, Mark can always go off on it.
very distracting.
And the other thing he always will say, like, "Oh, the Cheeto bag. Do you think that's like paid product placement?" I'm like, no. Back then, I don't think they
No,
did
I
that.
don't think so.
Just now,
It was just set decorating, you know.
yes, it was just
I
bizarrely a Cheeto bag
I
behind
can
his
tell
head.
you one weird fact that I can cobble together from having watched all of this research, and I think you'll probably all just immediately understand and agree with
what?
me. They shot everything in England. That's the only thing that sets it in
sure.
America. That was a prop. They didn't get product placement. That's like in England. They're like, how can we
How
make
about
this look more
Cheetos?
American? Put baseball shit everywhere. Put Cheetos in it. Put it front facing so everyone knows he's in America.
That's actually pretty accurate. But like I said, even as a mother, I was like, Cheetos, Cheeto dust, Cheeto fingers in a bed. There's like not a chance to, here, honey, here's your bag of Cheetos to eat in
Just
bed
like
with you.
Fred Savage
Never.
is a great sleeper. You just go in and vacuum it at night.
Oh my goodness. All right. Well, we've
Suck
got
his
very sidetracked. So it starts off, just a dark screen, and
Yeah,
you hear the
I-
grandson, Fred Savage, coughing.
And then, of course, we get the mom coming in, and then very quickly the grandpa, the amazing Peter Falk.
Who, God love him, he is dressed like the detective.
I know, because he's got
What
a
an-
trench coat on and
it's
the
the
hat.
oddest.
He's not dressed like it. He's dressed like a normal person.
First of all,
Everyone wears trench coats.
Grandfather
don't
should be in
have-
sweater vest or like a V-neck
He
sweater.
has a sweater vest on.
We don't have any names.
He has a trench coat over him.
We don't
first.
have any
Cardigan.
names in this
You-
movie. We don't
yeah,
know Peter
cardigan.
Falk's. We don't know
Excuse
Peter
me.
Falk's name. We don't actually know their name in the movie. It could actually be Inspector Columbo. It could be like a
this could have
spin-off.
been his grandchild. You're
He's
right.
just finishing up a case and gonna. Oh, my kid's sick. I can't solve this murder. I gotta go read the book.
Oh, my-
Actually, yeah,
I mean,
that does
could be.
that does
I-
make perfect sense.
that could be it, Ed. You might have cracked this wide open.
Oh my gosh.
Obviously.
Oh my God. Yeah. So, I mean, just watching Peter Falk come in and like get the book going, and then,
It's fantastic.
When I was your age, television was called books. 'Cause that's books.
it's so funny the idea that Fred Savage's character is just going to be like, ugh, I don't want you to read to me.
It's
This
perfect.
Like, what is this? What is this
book.
book?
Yeah,
What's
book.
this book? I don't know.
I don't
so
wanna,
great.
I don't want to jump ahead too far. But another scene later on when they break back in, there's like post a meal. Like think Fred Savage is eating like half a sandwich.
Oh, yeah, he is.
There's a break. I had not tracked this because I was a kid most of the times, and as I have not yet seen myself as an adult in some ways, I still enjoy fun stuff like this. But as I was watching Peter Falk this time, kind of concentrating on his character, he puts down a coffee mug, which is 100% there at the end of the movie. It's left behind the bed.
Oh, really?
But
There's a lot of crap like
but
the
if
Cheeto
I
bag
was
behind the
If I
bed,
was
yeah.
the granddad trying to read this 300-page book in one sitting in one day, I would absolutely need some coffee.
Well, you know what's
Multiple
crazy? The book is written by William Goldman, The Princess Bride.
And then he did this adaptation.
Right, he
which
did
is
adaptation.
amazing.
And I was like, what? It's really based on a book?
Yeah.
The book was like 460 plus pages.
Yeah, I read
It's
the
the
book.
good parts.
Yeah.
It's the good parts
Just
edition.
skip to the good parts. Yeah. I mean,
No, that's part of the title because the book is insane in some ways. Wait,
you-
Catherine, have you not read it or listened to it?
I have listened to it.
Okay. Are you?
Whoa.
You don't remember that? It's,
I mean, I do. I like the conceit that it's like there's some political stuff going on. We don't need to talk about that. It's a little bit like the narrator is a little.
sure, that's an example of the way that it's crazy.
Yeah. Well, what's your.
Well, look, it's first of all, it's slightly different than the movie in that the movie is sort of telling a more straight ahead story. The book is kind of all over the place. You're getting more detail on all kinds of things. And it's also, more importantly, the overall structure is that it is telling you about another book that you can't
Yes.
read.
Yes.
That is not available. And it's like, well, no, this book is so great. Let me tell you about it. And you're like, wait, what? How is this the movie?
Most
I'm
of this
confused.
book, most of this book is great. It's interesting because it feels like the adaptation from the book to the movie is they took all of the parts that make the book not just the story of the Princess Bride, something bigger than the book or that story itself. And they adapted all of that into the grandfather and the kid telling the story. Knowing the book, and 3 out of 4 of us have actually. Liz, you haven't read it, right? Wait.
no, I didn't know it was based on a book, clearly. And all of you read it?
I mean, look, this is. I mean, this
It
is
was a
the
slow read.
Well, sure, yeah, and this is. I mean, it feels like part of the culture now, so it felt very important for me as a young, ridiculous person to do this.
When did you read it?
I don't know, probably like 10 or 15 years ago.
When did you read it, Catherine?
I checked it out from the library. They had the audiobook, gosh, like 5+ years ago.
And was
maybe.
it good? Because, I mean, this is
Yeah, I think what is kind of sticking for me is it might have been an abridged version, which I hate to do, but it was the only one available.
Oh.
So
And in
I
this,
think I'm not
that's
getting
insane.
the whole thing. But what's so interesting.
That hurts my brain so much to think about someone abridging
Yeah,
that
that's why
version
I'm
of
like-
the book to even less. However, I could kind of understand why there are whole sections I'm like, yeah, the way you're writing this, I would have cut out even more.
Wow.
Well, I know that William Goldman considers it one of his best pieces of work, ever. So making the adaptation was a big deal for him, and he went through a whole process of multiple people trying to make it, and it all falling apart. And he was very skeptical that this was going to happen, and sort of didn't want to get his hopes up. That was sort of like a strange narrative through the whole process of him being like trying not to get too excited, or like visiting the set too much, or like it was interesting.
There's a story of the very first day on set. They're getting started, and Cary's got some lines. So it's this is a behind-the-scenes interview I watched with Cary and Robin and the director Rob Reiner, and they're all talking, remembering the story together. And they're like, and so Will was on set, and we started rolling, and then Rob had to cut. And I was like, was it me? Did I do something? He's like, no. What is that noise?
I hear him murmuring.
Like he was off camera somewhere, like
He was
chattering to himself,
praying.
like hoping
Yeah.
that everything was going to go well.
He was like
making
quiet.
sure.
Yeah, he had
But it was
quietly.
audible.
Yeah,
it
he
was like quiet on set, except the writer of the actual book and
Was
script
like-
was not.
tucked in a corner, and he was quietly like praying to himself that it would go well, and they could hear it. And they were like, "Okay, I'm sorry, but you have to go outside."
Take
It
your
went well
prayers
after that.
outside.
It went
Yeah.
well.
Wow.
Well, but just even thinking about the book, I know Rob Reiner says it was one of his favorite books he's
And
ever
his
read.
father gave him that book,
Yes.
right?
So and Cary Elwes as well. He's like, I read it when I was like 13 or 14 and I loved it, which is funny to hear John talk about it now and be like, it's insane.
But you
I can't imagine, I mean, my recollection of listening to it is not clear as you're reading it.
But
for
I
sure.
feel like you could see, I would say actually to some direct lineage from like a Monty Python to a Spinal Tap
Yeah.
to this. I mean, there are elements of it, the absurd, the spoofiness, the send up of a genre like
Yeah.
a fairy tale that all exists in there. And also, making fun of royalty. There's just those elements of rock and roll royalty to this royalty. So, I mean, once just like you start to read about the background of it, you're like, oh, some of this makes a lot of sense who it appealed to and why.
Especially the parts that make it into the movie, because if that's who loved it, everyone that you see in the movie loved those parts of the movie, and that adaptation is what actually gets produced, then it kind of makes sense that maybe they didn't love all the parts that got cut when they read it 10 or 20 years earlier before the movie ever existed. Like
but
when
usually, I was just going to say, it's so difficult for someone to do an adaptation of their own work. If it's something so big, to cut it down to a screenplay is very difficult. And it's particularly in the situation where if he's saying this is one of his most loved pieces of writing that he's ever done, that he was able to like distill it down. I don't know. It's an interesting process.
But I think between writing the book to actually adapting the screenplay, he had adapted quite a few screenplays and worked on screenplays.
Oh, no. He was an incredibly
prodigious.
Yeah, he was
successful. Yeah.
He was a huge talent. I mean,
Butch and the Sundance Kid, right?
I mean, very well respected. But I feel like it's almost harder to do it to your own material. You know? It's like, ugh.
But that was kind of one of his things, was adapting his own books, as well as adapting others. I mean, he'd done his Magic, was apparently a movie and a book, which I was unaware of, 78. Although then 86, the year before he did Heat, the other Heat, the one you don't know of.
Wait.
Yeah, this Heat is...
Not with Robert De Niro and Al Pacino?
Nope. Directed by Dick Richards and Jerry Jameson, starring Burt Reynolds.
Oh, well.
I don't know that Heat.
I don't know that Heat.
No, I didn't know that Heat. Okay.
But yeah, I mean, Butch Cassidy was 1969 and won the Academy Award, so much earlier. And, he started writing short stories in the late 50s, so he's big deal.
Yeah.
Or in that way, yes.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, so just interesting to think about the adaptation process and then how concerned he was the whole time. I mean, I think he kind of like, as it got going, he was on the set for a little bit and then did like leave and came back one more time. But I think he was gun shy because I
might get bad to him because he was definitely one of the more interesting, rabbit holes I went down on doing research on this.
Yeah,
he was really an interesting gentleman.
I do have one other idea to throw into the mix. Again, being related to tying more things together. So I'd have the idea that maybe Peter Falk was like, obviously it's him as Columbo and he's just coming in off work hours. But wait, maybe not. Maybe the book he was actually reading really was the version that we've all read, and he edited it live for his kid, because those are the boring parts. He just read the cool story.
Just the good part.
I feel like that is the vibe that they are trying to
like he's flipping around. No, but there is a bit he flips around in the book, like, where the heck was I? Because I can't find that spot. There's all this other trash I have to skip, because my kid would never listen to the boring parts.
I definitely feel like that might be what they were trying to show in the movie.
I mean, I still disagree, but in some ways, I agree with your earlier point that he's almost playing the author, William Goldman, as in he's got the original book, which is just the straight-ahead narrative, and then he's some of his asides, which we don't really see. We just get this like, well, I mean, it's kissing, or this, or that. This is one of the great... I mean, no, that's not true, because when he's reading The Greatest Kiss of All Time, that's not his commentary as grandfather. That's in the book. I don't know if that's in the actual book, but that feels like he's reading it. Well, no, that feels unlike the concise narrative, but the William Goldman commentary version. Yeah. So I feel, having said all of that, I think it's absolutely unclear.
I'm going to lay down another theory.
All right.
Because of timing. I think the grandson is Kevin from Wonder Years. Columbo is the grandfather, because Wonder Years literally comes out a year later. So we're just in a prequel of the Wonder Years.
Interesting.
Yeah, did you really? I mean, this is coming from
the wrong time period for the Wonder Years.
Yeah, the Wonder Years was not set.
Oh, God, it all just fell apart. Forget it.
No, it had a little Stranger Things moment, or it like hit a little time bubble.
Yeah, because that was supposed to take place in like almost the 70s. Son of a bitch. It all fell apart.
It was a WandaVision issue.
It was a multiverse. It was a multiverse.
Suddenly, Kevin's set in the 70s.
Yeah.
What happened? Where's my video game? I got to read books and ride a bike. This is terrible.
All right, so let's get back on track.
The Wanda years? Okay, there we go.
So obviously when
Wonder Years.
When we get into the book, the first thing we get is really like Buttercup and Wesley on the farm. And God,
Would you like, those are the names he chose? It's crazy.
Yeah. Buttercup, I mean, I don't want to be controversial, but I don't love it. But I'm still willing to like it. But you know, it is.
Well, tone-wise,
I mean, not very creative parents. She works on, like, she was born on a farm, on a dairy farm. Parents aren't hitting it far out of the park on that one. They're like, Buttercup. All right, moving on. Next kid.
well, I will say, right out of the gate, watching the movie, you're like, Buttercup. You knew this wasn't going to be serious. There was just an element right out of the gate that was like, that's kind of an absurd name.
But then Robin Wright, I mean,
gorgeous
and never not serious.
Earnest.
She is 100%. Yeah, there's no Buttercup is a joke.
There's
of
no
a name.
wink ever.
No.
Honestly, her performance in that movie, having just rewatched it, like having grown as a man from a child to a man now, let's pretend that happened, but whatever. Watching her now, I'm astounded by how serious her performance is.
It's very serious.
It is like absolutely set in that time period. She's not messing around, period.
No, she's doing a period movie for sure.
And she came off of a soap opera too.
No doubt.
That was
Santa Barbara, right?
Yeah, her previous acting gig.
The casting of her was just amazing.
And she was doing an accent and, you know.
Well, I guess her father is English, so she fell into it very easily. She, you know,
and I
has
guess
a good
they
ear
had a
for
hard
it.
time casting that part.
They did, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, Uma Thurman? Okay, yeah. I mean, there was people they had come in. I think they even said Whoopi Goldberg, and I was like, that would have been interesting casting.
Wow.
Yeah, so I mean,
interesting.
There were very interesting people that came through, but when she basically came to meet Rob Reiner and William Goldman, immediately they were like, that's Buttercup. That's Buttercup.
Yeah. Well, she was amazing.
That's like Buttercup.
Well, it's funny to think that like literally everyone else does have a bit of a wink. I think except for Mandy Patinkin. He's not playing it even and none of them are playing it like for laughs. They're doing it very seriously, which I like. What, John?
Well, I don't know. I almost commented earlier. This as a overall theory that it lines up with This is Spinal Tap, Robert Reiner's earlier movie, and Monty Python. I kind of disagree because yes, you have Robin Wright playing it super serious. You have Mandy Patinkin and Elwes playing it in a way serious, though they're saying funny things frequently.
Yeah, it's like a grounded.
So I unfortunately now I'm upset that I haven't read the script because I just was looking at one scene and it was like, oh, well, I looked at two scenes and it was like, these are different. We know Billy Crystal improvised.
Yeah.
So, okay, that's expected. Yeah.
Oh, him and Carol Kane, right?
Yeah, because just even reading his intro at the door is different and not as funny. Like you are the Brute Squad, not in the script.
Yeah.
So similarly, I just happened to be looking for something else, and it was the first scene when you're going to the pit of despair. And that is different. The guy doing like his like whisper to cough to full voice.
Oh yeah.
Not in the script. So, you and William Goldman, certainly not exactly a This is Spinal Tap comedy type guy.
No, for sure.
So you came from a serious, and in some ways they set themselves up for a straight ahead serious fairy tale. And then they kind of allowed a little bit to creep in.
But I think they did that with casting, though. They purposely,
I'm still disagreeing.
Christopher
That's okay,
Guest?
though.
Are you kidding me? He was in Spinal Tap.
Let's put it this way. He was not the Christopher Guest we think of now.
Oh, God, he was so
But he's great in
brilliant.
it. But I'm saying it's
the
like...
Six-Finger Man.
I know, yes. Count Rugen. But I don't know... Not that they didn't do it purposefully, but it was a magical allowance for this silliness. I don't know that it was perfectly planned for.
Yeah, I mean,
I would say it's perfectly planned for. I just say there are, as a director, you bring your experience, and he's, like I said, he's working with Christopher Guest. He's working with even Billy Crystal was in Spinal Tap. You're working with some of these actors, and you've hired comedic actors, some of them. So I wasn't saying it was necessarily a direct link. I'm just saying you can see how it's progressed and how, as a director, his previous experience and allowing improv to happen.
Yeah.
Because Spinal Tap, most of it was improvised. So, all right. But so now we've met Buttercup and Wesley.
Right. Oh, gosh. Okay. So, first of all, at this point, this is where I really become aware of the music, too. So, I just wanted to bring up Mark Knopfler.
I was
that's
just going to mention that.
That's really when you get that first kind of swell when you're like seeing them on the farm. And you know what, though? Cracks me up about this farm. Literally, they are the only two people there. This is like a really pared down farm situation. Like
It's
there's
so awkward. I know. It's just her
but
and
it's
her.
kind of genius as a movie. Like you don't need any other characters.
Phone boy. Fetch me that picture.
But I think it's good.
Hey, that was very good.
Just you and me. And this entire 17 acres. Can I get that picture
that's-
from you?
What they're doing is they're not focusing on the parents.
Yeah.
Because that's not important to the children, Wesley and Buttercup's story. What the parents are doing doesn't matter, so we don't need to see what they're doing.
But it is so typical in a movie that you would just see all of that anyway.
Well, I think
totally would
now
like
you
see
would
the
today. They would
family,
fill
the
out a whole
backstory.
world.
They
yeah.
would. But
You might even know that the old lady in the courtyard later is her mother, whose life was ruined because you left the farm and we're destitute now.
The booer?
Boo! You ruined my life. You left the farm. I'm just kidding.
I mean, that is actually one of my favorite scenes ever. I mean, anytime I say boo, I end up saying, yeah, I end up falling directly into it. Yeah, so that the whole first sequence where we meet them is beautiful, and I
It's
find
a
it.
poster image.
Oh,
isn't
yeah.
it? Yeah. Kissing in silhouette.
It's only interrupted by Peter Falk's raspy voice.
Yeah.
And their true love.
So then, basically we skip to Wesley's going to leave, and then Wesley dies, and then I was surprised on the rewatch how quickly we got to he's already dead, and she's already basically betrothed to this prince.
Wow, what
and
else is she going to do, people?
I know.
It's been 5 years.
It's the setup. We can move through this setup.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I was mildly surprised at how quickly, because in my
and it's-
mind it doesn't feel.
It's called Princess Bride, not on the farm and
Yeah, I got
on
to
the
get to
high
her being
seas.
a princess. And really, then comes one of my favorite characters and one of my favorite actors. He's one of those people, everything he's in, he's great. Chris Sarandon.
Sarandon, yeah, I didn't realize.
Prince
Yeah,
Humperdinck.
Humperdinck, Humperdinck, Humperdinck. Yeah,
Between the two of them, they are really seriously in like a period piece. Like if you rewatch it and try not to have as much fun as you usually do and just go, are they being serious? They're really being serious. They're going to murder each other if someone doesn't intervene.
Interesting point. So you're saying they're being serious. Oh, I don't know what I think about that.
I think they struck a perfect tone.
Well, that was the beauty of the direction that Rob Reiner knew that he needed it to be serious and grounded and have a little bit of weight to it, but that he put so many comedic people and brilliant people in there and definitely made sure that they don't play it for laughs, play it for real, and just allow the dialogue to be fun.
Right, I was going to say the dialogue and the way they would deliver a line, and that's why it's one of the most quotable movies. That is where some of the humor came from.
Yeah,
just
for
the
sure.
way they would turn a phrase, or they would say, part of a dialogue, or obviously inconceivable. I don't think Wallace Shawn was trying to say it in a way that he thought for the rest of his life.
Oh, people would just.
Inconceivable.
Yeah.
There's just no way he thought that was going to happen. But you give great actors great dialogue.
On top of which, his part is over. He's not in a large part of the movie. Wallace Shawn dies. Sorry,
It's pretty-
spoilers.
yeah, it's
35
pretty-
years later.
it's pretty
But,
early.
Yeah, there's some characters that you're like, wait, what's happening? They're done. How did I quote that for the rest of my life?
Well, there's a real example of that, I think, coming up later. But I think Wallace Shawn, it's an interesting example because he's heavy in that first third,
Yeah.
first half. So it makes some sense. Yes, you move on from him, but he was in there a lot for that portion.
Made a big impression for not being in the entire movie. But, so now we've Buttercup
he's
is
also critical to filling in a lot of the plot points of what's going on, what's happening, who's doing what,
Right.
why are we chasing, you're a bad guy, but you're kind of a small bad guy. It's fine.
Well, wait, I hate to derail because it was, sort of my plan to begin with, but I have to talk about Wallace Shawn being cast in this movie. Did anybody else hear these stories about how, oh no.
How
As soon as I was
how
going to
stressed
say,
he was?
right now we know that Buttercup is bereaved Wesley, but now betrothed to Prince Humperdinck. So that's where we left off. And then she's kidnapped
Right.
by Wallace Shawn.
And his two cohorts.
Which is, I think, Mandy Patinkin, I might have seen him from Pirates of Penzance.
You didn't see Yentl?
Yentl was before?
Yes. And there's
Yeah.
something else that was big.
It is shocking that Yentl was before, but yes.
Oh, I don't think I knew that. Okay. So now and of course, André the Giant. So these three very kind of
Which I
misfits. What the hell?
Yeah, I like the lineup of them in the field where it's like, wow, Wallace Shawn is really short, Mandy is like normal, and then André the Giant. It's crazy. But I want to just really, really quick talk about how Wallace Shawn getting cast. He 100%, I guess, like his agent or someone had told him that, like, well, they really wanted Danny DeVito or Richard Dreyfuss. And you're like, Cary Elwes wrote this book in 2014 and basically, interviewed so many people from the cast, and they all commented and added to the book. And one of the things he said was like, don't tell your actors things like that. The whole time I'm thinking, how would Danny DeVito do this? He was just, it sounded like he was a wreck. So when you said like, he wouldn't have thought like, who's going to remember how I say inconceivable? He was like worried that he was going to get fired every day. He's
more like he was thinking, how would Danny DeVito say inconceivable? Because I need to intone the DeVito-ness of this.
Yeah, because they might have wanted him more than me, but they couldn't get him. And so maybe I won't get fired if I kind of do it like Danny DeVito might have done it. It was crazy. I felt so bad for him. I was like, it's such an amazing performance and people love it so much. And he just had no idea that it was working when he was doing it. It's just funny that like years later, it's such a like long-standing gift. You know?
Because he just is so. He does it with such an urgency, his character, because
gusto.
Well, yeah, because when they kidnap her, Mandy Patinkin, his character, they're on the boat, and he keeps. I think we're being followed.
Oh God, yeah. Why would you say that?
Why would you say that? It's like it's all like high blood pressure is what I thought the entire time. Like,
oh yeah,
his blood pressure must be out of control. Like he just was so like tense.
That Bassini, he can fuss.
Yeah,
I think he liked to scream at us.
And then André the Giant was another just incredible casting choice.
Oh, yeah. I think, the stories that I came across, it was like there was no one else. That's who they wanted. They specifically had him in mind.
But I guess he was still part of the Worldwide Wrestling Federation, whatever it existed at the time, and was unavailable. And just like you were saying, William Goldman, there had been a previous attempt to make this movie.
Multiple, yeah.
And so at one point, they're like, all right, we're not going to get André the Giant. Maybe we'll get Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, I thought that was funny.
And then when they came back, they're like, okay, he's a huge movie star. We'll never be able to afford him. And then Liam Neeson got auditioned too. And he probably did very well, but they're like, you are not big enough. Because, they had to do zero special effects on André the Giant. Yeah. Zero.
Well, not actually special effects, more like they had to do all the practical effects because of his actual disease. He couldn't hold anyone up.
Yeah, he had a back injury.
He was constantly not actually doing all the physical stuff that you see. Even I didn't know this, but even in the getting slightly ahead, we have introduced Wallace Shawn in the wrestling scene between the two of them. When you can see both of their faces and Wesley's got his arms around his neck from behind, he's walking on a bench behind him.
Oh,
so that there's absolutely no weight
so he's not
or pressure
hanging on him.
And then when they're rolling on the ground, it's so bad on a very high quality Blu-ray. It is a whole different human being. That is not André.
Oh, I don't think I've ever looked that closely.
That is not his face. Okay.
But that's one of the greatest trios. That was a comedy duo that they put together in a way that just the physicality of Mandy's character and then just the huge size and a gentle giant in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Look, all the behind the scenes stories, they loved him. Everyone loved him and is so sad that he has passed away.
André the Giant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But it is funny to think like that first trio is Mandy Patinkin, André the Giant, and then Wallace Shawn is Vicini, right? And then when Vicini is dead, then it's the Man in Black. And the three of them, this is a little bit...
He has no gift for strategy.
The three of them, when Wesley is first coming out from being, mostly dead all day.
Dead all day.
The comedy of his floppy neck and it's just... it is amazing.
There was a great physical comedy, and I actually thought the fencing was incredible.
Oh, I can't. We'll have to talk about that.
Well, we got to get to
all right,
it. Yeah.
Okay, so
there's no getting to it. It's now.
It's now. Okay. Well, look. Do we need to discuss more beats of the movie as it goes, or do we want to just jump into all of the behind the scenes stuff as we? I don't know.
I think we're gonna have to. So basically, Wallace Shawn comes in. He's kidnapped Buttercup. And it all falls apart from there. Now we have to fast forward.
Well, look, everybody knows the movie. So we could just say our favorite parts of the movie as we go along.
We got as far as we needed to introduce a lot of these cast members, and we got all the way to the criminals together, which included Wallace Shawn, which is really the only thing that I wanted to get to before I was like, all right, the rest of the plot of the movie, we know. I have a story with my sister Catherine about Wallace Shawn.
What?
We should bring it up.
We do? What are you talking about?
I went into the bathroom at the same time as him when we went to go see his play in downtown LA. Don't you remember that? Like 30 years ago?
What are you talking about?
You know, in some of our other podcasts, we've talked about a pilot that you did for college.
Right.
And so there was a bunch of research that we did. And one of the things that we did, part of that research was we went and saw theater. And we went and saw Wallace Shawn in downtown LA.
Oh my God, I don't
How old
remember
were
this
you at the
all.
time, Ed?
I was like 12 or 13. So it was very cool to go out with my older sister to a play in downtown.
I mean, I guess I was very cool to take you.
Did she come
And-
pick you up in her white rabbit cabriolet?
I don't
It was
know
black.
what we drove.
It was
there.
black, even cooler. I didn't remember that.
The
Okay.
black cabriolet was very nice. And then we, at the theater, we, mingled around up in front before it started. And as, we're going in, I'm like, I actually have to go to the bathroom. So you went in, or we figured out where our seats were. I came back out. For no reason, Wallace Shawn was going towards the public restroom at the same time as me. There it is. I met and saw Wallace Shawn right before his play.
Wow, that's amazing. I didn't see him.
And that was it. That's the whole story.
I also don't remember this
Great.
play at all.
Thanks a lot.
Well, I mean, I don't know.
Well, what year would that be? I'm looking at, it's like off Broadway.
Was he in it or just? I'm
was in
sure-
it.
Oh, he was in it.
Yeah, it was like, I don't know if it was a monologue. I don't know if it was a monologue of his, just him doing something on stage, or if there was more, if it was like him and one or two other people, but it was primarily him for like an hour and a half.
Oh, wow.
And it was not as fun as Vicine.
One more time, what I find fascinating is like, why in the F were you going there? Were you trying to give him inspo for the character you were writing him in your little
I
pilot?
don't know. I mean, we did see some Shakespeare because he did some Shakespeare
Right.
in the pilot that I had shot for my senior project. Oh my God, that's so funny. Okay, well, you know what? You bringing up, this is now back on track to The Princess Bride. You bringing up André the Giant not being able to really lift anything because he was actually postponing, I think, a back surgery to shoot this
I think
movie.
he'd already had it.
Oh, okay. I think he had another one though. I mean, he was messed up.
I think it was an ongoing issue, but he
Yeah.
had just had a back surgery. I read that as well.
Yeah. So that scene where they're going up the cliffs of insanity.
Yeah, all three. So you have Mandy, you have Wesley, Cary, and you have Robin Wright's Buttercup hanging off of him.
Right. So they were.
No,
Not
sorry.
Cary, but Vicine.
Yes, Vicine, because I think he's following us. He's gaining on us.
Oh yeah.
I'm just going to have to get myself a new giant.
Anyway, just ridiculous.
What'd
So yeah, they
Hurts my
actually
feelings.
basically what Ed is saying. They built like an apparatus that had like bicycle seats, so there was no weight. He was not carrying any weight at all.
Wow.
Like they were just. It looked like they were
Apparently on a series of ramps.
on a series of ramps, and then the wide shot, which is comically ridiculous how fast they are going up. It is actually because I guess practically they were like, well, we have these cliffs. So they had a stunt guy with some dummies hanging off of
Yeah.
him on just like, a winch that's just like bringing him up and he's just like kicking his legs like he's climbing, which is why it looks a little goofy, which kind of works for the moment, but it's very funny. But yeah, but then, of course, that gets us right to the top of the cliff of insanity situation. And now we can talk about some sword fighting.
Yeah, I mean, what was the backstory with Cary and Mandy? I mean, I know that they basically totally embraced the fencing challenge and did not use really any stunt doubles for most of it.
Well, that was Rob Reiner's plan, that he didn't want to use stunt doubles. He wanted to see them fighting. And also, it's written, in the book and in the screenplay, the most amazing sword fight of all time, or whatever it is.
No pressure there.
So they wanted it to be amazing. And they hired these two experts, Bob Anderson.
And Peter Diamond.
Oh, and Peter Diamond, right? Thank you.
Fencers.
fencers, like Olympic fencers, and just.
Did you ever meet them when you were taking
No.
fencing in
Oh,
Santa
God.
Monica?
No, that's so funny. that
I
you
totally
bring
remember.
that up.
Does anybody else remember Catherine was into fencing at some point?
I was
Oh, yeah.
for a minute. I wasn't good at all. I liked the form of it, but then I didn't actually want to fight
I
people.
remember you had the whole
And, like,
outfit.
I
and it
did.
was very impressive.
You need like the Poketon, the Peloton version.
The Pokemon.
I was like,
You just Poketon. Jab, 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 jab.
never heard of that.
All right.
So basically, these two, they were older guys, are training these two young guys. Cary Elwes was only 23 when he started
Oh my
shooting
gosh,
this
a
movie,
child.
which is crazy. I don't know how old Mandy Patinkin was, but obviously they were quite young compared to these two guys. And their first day of training, basically the two guys had said, we're going to train throughout the entire run of production, and then we're going to shoot these scenes at the end. So all of the sword fighting was shot at the end. So unfortunately, they did literally train the entire time. So in between takes on the set, the trainers would be like standing next to the camera, and then they'd like grab one of them and like work on stuff. But anyway, the first day that they trained, they worked really hard. They weren't in production yet. And at the end of the day, they'd worked them out very hard. The two trainers had worked out Mandy Patinkin and Cary Elwes incredibly hard, and they were just like beat up. Their legs were hurting. They were spent. And then the two guys were like, okay, we're going to now show you how it should look. And Cary in his book is like, and I had even thought, like, these two old guys, I don't know if this is, because he had no idea who they were. He didn't know that they were like world-class fencers. He was like, I don't know, these old guys.
Some choreographers.
Yeah, and then they just blew them away, just like did an amazing, demonstration. And then he and Mandy were like, oh, okay, yeah. I mean, these guys we're in good hands, but also we got our work cut out for us.
But they also actually really stepped their skill level up, and were actually, because they had to fight both-handed.
Yeah.
That's the choreography.
And they had to
fight.
learn each other's parts.
And they had to look like experts at it, so that they had to learn each other's parts. So there's so much that they had to learn. Apparently, the original choreography and fight that they had designed when they showed it, it was too fast.
It was too short, is what it was. It was too short.
So they got so good at it that their pacing had gotten so good that it was
like, boop, boop,
going to
boop,
be
boop,
too
boop,
fast in the movie. So they said, go learn more.
Yeah.
So they extended how much they had to learn.
So the two,
It's pretty awesome.
It was hilarious that they had basically it was supposed to be 3 minutes or something like that. And they show it to Rob Reiner, maybe 2 days before they're supposed to shoot it. And he's like, okay, great. How long was that? And I think he asked his script supervisor, and she's like, 1.5 minutes or whatever. And he was like, oh yeah, it needs to be 3 minutes long. And then they said at that point, they really had gotten it so into their bones. They actually, in 2 days, they added another 1.5 minutes. They added the acrobatic spin. That was one of the things they added. They also, they didn't have, up to that point, it looked like a castle behind them that was kind of falling apart or whatever. They were like, oh, maybe give us levels. Then we can go up the level. They added that in days before they shot it.
Oh, that was awesome.
It is pretty amazing. And it really is a testament to how much they really learned it and were actually very good at it at that point. But the other thing that was very funny about the sword fighting was apparently Mandy Patinkin had no training before this, but had about 1.5 months before he started shooting production, he actually started training in Los Angeles before he went to England.
Probably the same place you did.
Oh, I doubt it, but that's very funny. And then shows up in England, and Cary had zero training and was like, hey, we're in the same boat, zero training. And Mandy's like, oh, well, I've done a little bit. Turns out Mandy was extremely competitive. I mean, the story, obviously this is from Cary's point of view because it's Cary's book, but was kind of funny that Mandy was just almost yeah, I've learned a little bit. And he was like, and then he shows off a little bit. And the guys are like, the two trainers are like, oh, you're looking good. And Cary's like, I felt like such a dolt. Yeah, I've been set up. He's already been training and I really know nothing. Jeez.
I got a question. Do you feel like that's just them getting caught in the normal Hollywood BS cycle of they both had fencing on their resumes?
Oh, maybe.
Along with, because when you...
And dancing and singing.
And all accents.
Oh, no, the best is also horseback riding. So when you...
Which they had to do in this.
Roller skating, ice skating, anything.
God, do you still have to do that now? When you put together, basically, for those of you who don't know, when you put together your resume as an actor, there is a bottom section that says special skills. And the old, Hollywood
Just put everything.
advice was put everything you can learn, and if you book the part.
I speak French.
Right. It would be like multiple languages. Parlez-vous français? Hola, ¿cómo está? I mean, like, whatever. And horseback riding was always on there. So, yeah, maybe it was like, yes, I'm a great fencer. Like, great, you got the part. Nope, you don't even know what the hell you're doing. So then what I thought was awesome was, Mandy's character very much was supposed to fight to the death. Mm-hmm. Because that's his honor. We're like, forget spoiler alerts here. That he basically bonks him on the head and leaves him there. I mean, so then he owes him a debt. Is just such a great arc through the rest of it.
I'd sooner destroy a stained glass window, right? Isn't that the line?
Than a piece of art such as yourself.
But since I can't have you following me, bonk.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, yeah.
I do have one thing to interject into the movie universe at this point. Prince Humperdinck's position in this story, because we're now like getting through all of their fights and we've introduced, and now we're like kind of, okay, so Humperdinck is actually following through and he's finding all these spots. What kind of are we supposed to be buying that he's some amazing like
You
hunter?
could trick a falcon on a cloudy day.
Except, you bought and paid for this. You know exactly where all these are set up. You're like, hey, I think I smell something on the cliffs of insanity. How'd you smell that, dude? I don't know. I smelled it. Let's go.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. I never
He
really...
knows where everything's
Because
going.
he hired them.
Yeah.
He knows where they're going. Oh
if
my
you
God,
have
I
not-
never...
Makes it look
That's
great,
so
though.
funny.
Because here's the deal, you may not remember, because a lot of people probably have not seen this movie in a long time.
But you should watch it right
Prince
now.
Humperdinck hires this group of,
Yeah, because he wants to start a war. So.
right, with
Now.
Gillard. Is that
Gilder.
Gilder.
I did want to say this. It does track that, you could track Falcon on it. He could find you. That he's able to track all of these things. Although he should have known where all of them were at. Man, imagine if Dread Pirate Roberts didn't show up. Was the plan he was actually going to sword fight the giant, and kill Vicini? Obviously, he couldn't have won.
No, I think
But,
they
like-
were kidnapping Buttercup and taking her somewhere to...
They were supposed to find her body.
Yes,
I
wait
think.
a minute. I'm sorry. The weak link in this chain, it was not planned at all. Because, yes, he hired Vicini to kill his,
Bride-to-be.
fiance, yes, bride-to-be. He did not plan on the Dread Pirate Roberts showing up and doing anything. Who knows if he knew that Vicini had hired a sword master and a giant. He didn't know what they were going to
I'm
do.
just saying, it's a kind of a funny plot hole that they didn't really resolve. That how is he tracking? Where was his escape plan? He's supposed to be getting back to Gilder with the horse with the thing on it, but they immediately got all the way to the swamps. They caught you. Okay, I don't know what your plan was, Wallace.
Oh my gosh, with ROUS, right?
ROUSs. So rodents
S's.
of unusual size.
Right.
Is multiples.
Once we have the amazing sword fight and Cary catches up with first the giant and then Vicini.
And we also get Mandy's character's whole motivation there.
I mean, that is so...
Revenging his father.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful, let's take a little break before we fight, and I'm going to tell you my whole story. It's well constructed. I like it a lot. So,
And you understand then why he has to fight to the death and why no one's going to be able to kill him, because he has got this motivation to revenge his father, so he will not be able to be stopped. It's so brilliant. The six-fingered man.
The six-fingered man. Yeah. Okay. So we get our giant fight, and then we get our Vicini iocane powder, ridiculous mind game scene.
but only slightly.
It's so good.
That's one of the
Never go up against a Sicilian when death is on the line.
That's what I was gonna say.
What? Oh my God.
A less well-known is never go up against a Sicilian. And one of my girlfriends is Sicilian, and so I'm always thinking, oh God, she's kind of
a
evil.
Wackadoodle.
But
oh my God.
No. I mean, that is one of the great. There's no way he knew he was delivering that line in such an iconic way.
No. Well, obviously,
And
he
he
was
doesn't
very
look-
worried that he was going to be replaced at any moment by Danny DeVito if he became available.
You're like, so he's supposed to play like a Sicilian too. He probably was like, what?
Well, that is what he was also worried about. He was like, I'm not Italian. I don't have an Italian accent. And Rob Reiner, I guess, pulled him aside and was like, do it exactly like you would do it. That's what we want. Don't worry about it.
Right, because Dinner with André already come out.
Yes. And everyone loved him and was in awe of him from that, but he didn't fully
but that was
understand that, and also thought he was wrong for this, or at least got it in his head that he was not who they wanted. So
Highly recommend Dinner with André, which I think he might have also written I mean, I'd have to go back and double check that. But, that is one
I
of
think he did. He's like a super smart dude.
Right. And I think that's one of those ones that stands the test of time. It's amazing dialogue. And you just feel like you're intimately a fly on the wall at a dinner table.
Yeah, it's an amazing movie. Okay, so finally we get Wesley and Buttercup back together. But at this moment, of course, he's Dread Pirate Roberts, and she's like super mad at him. Boy, she really is like fiery.
Yeah, because she thinks he actually killed Wesley for the love of her life.
For sure. Okay,
Yeah, he's got the full Superman slim mustache.
I mean, how would you recognize it?
You can't tell.
How would you not recognize him?
It is comical that it's like, I mean, and yet it plays that she doesn't recognize him. And all he has is like a little black mask and a teeny
it's a little Zorro.
I mean, it's pretty funny. But she's like, she doesn't know it's him until he's halfway down the hill.
And that choice for her, the whole red, sort of like cloak, heavy material dress, and her red boots, so good.
Oh, it's really good. Yeah.
And normally red is not a princess color, even though, you have Little Red Riding Hood and so on and so forth. It was a very interesting choice, but it looked great on her.
Yeah.
As she tumbled down the hill.
Now, I have to interject this little side story that apparently Cary Elwes had injured his toe just before these scenes were everything is shot out of order.
Right.
So at some point prior to shooting these scenes,
all over Ireland, right?
It was England, this region where these actual cliffs are.
Yes. They shot in England. The cliffs are in Ireland.
The cliffs are
both.
in Ireland.
Okay.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Okay. Thank you for the correction.
Unless, of course, they're on a set.
Yes, which is in England.
Which was in England.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, so
hence the weird Cheeto
so
bag.
In this location, right, where they're trying to get all these shots on the top of these
cliffs
bluffs and stuff so that you can, get the big vistas was the idea. André the Giant couldn't fit in any of the cars. Like they couldn't get him.
What? They couldn't transport him?
They couldn't get him to and from locations. And so they asked him like, well, how would you get around? Like, because he was from a farm when he was a boy. And he was like, oh, I had like he called everyone boss. Boss, I had an ATV. I had, and I could ride around on my ATV. That was terrible, André the Giant. But so production got him an ATV.
Boss, I have an ATV. I would just ride around on my ATV, boss.
That's pretty close. That's better than mine. So they got him an ATV, and of course, according to Cary, it looked like he was riding a tricycle, because he's humongous, so it doesn't even matter how big this thing is. And he would zoom around on it, right? And he would come up to Cary and be like, boss, you want to try my toy? And he's like, no, I'm good, André, thank you. And then like every day, boss, you want to try my toy? Boss, you want to ride on my toy? Boss. And he's like, okay. So one day I finally am like, okay. So this is a huge mistake, obviously, because you're in the middle of production and he ends up riding it and it goes badly at first, but then he gets it under control and he's like, oh, okay, great. And then he hits a rock and he jams his foot and he breaks his big toe, basically.
His big toe?
Yeah. Now, of course, he's like, holy shit, I have like multiple scenes I'm supposed to shoot over the next 2 days. What am I going to... So he's so funny. He's like, I involved other people in the production. I had the nurse like, can't you just tape it? Like, and she's like, and then I realized like, oh, now I'm like making her lie because I've basically said don't tell anyone, but like how can you not tell anyone that I've broken my toe? And like he had the wardrobe person.
So not having a cast basically was his issue.
And then also not going to the hospital because then he'd have to like cop to the fact that he has broken his...
I mean, his toe has been mostly dead all day.
So he also had the wardrobe person like cut open the back of his boot and like wear a black sock so you couldn't see that. So anyway, this scene where they first see each other again, he has a broken toe and he's like purposefully like walking a little bit strangely. It's funny. I watched this scene after and I'm like, oh, yeah, a little bit. I can see a little bit, but like he's really...
So he was in excruciating pain.
There's a part where he's, back and forth with the princess, and she's like, I would know, and this, and then he's walking across the scene, and you can tell, oh, is that the leg that he's favoring? He does a spin and turns and lays down, and he keeps the weight completely off of that foot.
Yeah.
If you're paying attention, he's like, oh, that's the broken foot. Okay.
Yeah.
Ouch. So that's the famous, when she shoves him first down the hill.
Yes. And then, as you wish.
Wesley.
Yeah. And then she tumbles.
Could you run down it? I don't know.
I guess you just have to
Those
tumble.
stunt people did a really good job.
did.
Because you couldn't really ever see it wasn't them, but there's no way it was them. And they really did tumble for a long time.
It was quite long, and it was definitely stunt people. I do enjoy the oof, oof.
That's some good Foley. What are you talking about?
I wonder if that might be technically ADR, because Foley would be just sounds that are not people. But
how they would lay in the sound.
Or looping.
Into the scene.
Or looping, yeah. But just so funny. Anyway.
And then you get into, which is still, like I said, if we want to talk about the ROUSs.
Oh, very good.
You go into the
fire swamp.
The fire swamp.
Which apparently was the first day of shooting, was the fire swamp. What? I mean,
well, that set was definitely had a little, you watch it and you're like, okay. I mean, today it would probably be done very differently.
Yeah.
But, it had a lot of great elements to it. And once again, they were just delivering the lines, but there was humor throughout it.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So ridiculous. Just the idea of like the fire popping and then, I think one of my favorite things that I found out during this, deep dive was the sand pit, right?
Oh, yeah.
It was kind of like not that complicated of a stunt, but was surprisingly dangerous. And apparently Cary was supposed to jump in after her like feet first. And he's like, this was me being stupid. But I was like, that doesn't seem very swashbuckly of me. So maybe if I dive in. And they were like, well, yeah, but there's like a trap door down there and we don't know if we can open it. Because like they did hers first. And she just drops down and then it opens and she falls into like a pit of, foamy stuff or mattresses or whatever was under there. And then they're like, the stunt double, they did them first with the stunt doubles to kind of test it out and, get a backup. And then they did it, the actors. And Cary was like, yeah, but what if I dive in? And then they go back and forth and back and forth. And of course, the stunt person who like made the thing was like, well, we did not design it for that. And they were all very nervous, but they did get it.
Cary, you do realize your face will be the first thing that goes in, right?
I mean,
So we're using that. In the movie.
But it was very swashbuckling.
It was.
It looked better. I got to give it to him.
I know. Yeah, I think it was a good move, but it was still like a little bit dicey.
And this is then when you really realize how conniving, because when they come out and they immediately basically get captured, and Buttercup makes the deal, like if you don't kill him to Prince Humperdinck, if you don't kill him, I'll marry you.
Yeah.
She makes the deal with the devil.
Just return him to his ship.
Oh,
yeah.
Right. And, that's where it's like, sure, we'll return him to his ship.
Of course. I like the line, we are both men of action. Like, we know that.
Lies do not become us.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You're not. And then, oh gosh, that's another little, talk about multiple injuries on the set, like sort of back to back. They were having trouble with the, how, what's his name? The Six Finger Man?
Christopher Guest.
Count Rugen.
Count Rugen. So he bonks him on the head, right? And
that is a significant little bonk that he does.
So the way they're shooting it is like straight on.
Right.
And a lot of times you're shooting like from the behind so you can kind of fake it and whatever. And I guess they had done it a couple times and they were like, Cary, we're just not, the timing is not right. You're like dropping too soon or dropping too early or like whatever. And it just so happened that Christopher Guest had like I don't know if it was a real sword, but the sword hilt was real. So the sword itself
looked like it had weight,
so,
for sure.
And they're like, well, we can fake it. You can give me a little tap and like, it'll be fine. So they shoot it, and he goes and he taps him on the head, and Cary said, and that is the last thing I remember.
He really knocked him out?
Because I ended up in the hospital. Yeah, he bonked him, and it was just like, it was.
Is that the take they used?
That is the take they used. It is.
I will always say it always
got.
It has always looked extremely real, and now we know that it was.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Jog his memory.
Oh, God. It was so funny to hear him tell that story and just be like, and then I made another dumb suggestion. Like, yeah, I think you could just hit me on the head. It'll be fine. Oh, no, it was not fine. Oh, God. Anyway.
And now you have him being tortured.
Oh, yeah, the Pit of
Wesley.
Despair. Yeah, the guy playing the albino, I guess, in the Pit
Mel
of Despair.
Smith. Give him a shout out, Mel
He
Smith.
is hilarious.
Well, the voice, were you referencing the voice he does?
Yeah,
I think John might have.
Yes, I was, and I
the
wasn't
cough in the script versus
was
the...
not in the script.
Yeah.
So funny. just what they do to torture him too. I mean, when they the year zapper, the zapping a year out of your life. I mean, there's so many.
Does anybody have this little tidbit fact that the machine, quote unquote, the machine, wasn't designed for that movie.
What?
It was designed for a James Bond movie.
No.
As a torture device that was eventually going to kill him with a big thing that gets him right at the end. And it was going to be oil instead of water or something like that.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. And then they completely scrapped that for whichever James Bond movie they were doing. Already had it entirely built. And they're like, great,
You want
repurpose
that?
it. We're using
Cool.
it. Let's use it.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Repurposing, fabulous.
That's amazing.
Oh my gosh, he directed Bean, the first Mr. Bean movie.
Who did?
This guy,
Mel Smith?
That's awesome.
He's unfortunately, being in America, we don't get all the British television
Yeah,
shows.
that's true.
So he was a big British television comic type guy, and then had a later career, including directing some stuff.
Oh wow, that's
Oh,
funny.
it's very cool. So now poor Wesley has been tortured almost to death.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, mostly
Almost to death.
mostly
Mostly to
dead.
death.
Mostly dead. Yeah.
Oh, the last little thing before we even have dead Wesley is
Dead Wesley.
is Six-Fingered Man and Humperdinck outside the Pit of Despair. That scene where he says, like, would you like to come down? Oh no, I'm too busy. Like that whole vibe between the two of them.
I love watching you work, but I've got I got my country's 500th anniversary to plan, my wedding to arrange, and my wife to murder, and Gilder to frame.
for it.
I'm swamped.
I mean, it is such a great genius scene and has like, are these two
fire
a couple?
swamped.
Like, I mean,
Well, the funny thing is, it comes a little later, but Mark, my husband, has said he wished he had said to me, like, when he proposed to me, he said, please, consider me as an alternative to suicide.
yeah, I mean, yeah.
That's the proposal. No, that's like Chris Sarandon in this movie is one of my favorites. He just
he's
delivers.
amazing, yeah.
I think Lord Falkwell and or whatever in Shrek is practically an homage to him in some
yeah.
ways. I mean, it just John, I could link Shrek to this.
No.
Yes. So all right. So yes, I agree. That's one of the quotable great lines. Like, I'm swamped. Like,
Yeah. So now we've got, unfortunately, mostly dead Wesley.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get our giant back. And then we get Indigo back. And they bring Wesley, what?
Well, I'm just remembering. It's actually I forget which character says Inigo, but somebody does. But because when he says it, my name is Inigo Montoya, so he says it
Yeah,
differently
he says it very
Inigo.
differently.
Inigo.
with the Spanish accent.
It's
yeah.
weird because
He's supposed to be Spanish.
I don't think there's a specific accent across any of this
Oh,
entire movie. It's
just
the
everybody's doing
patchwork of
anything.
accents. But isn't André the giant? Isn't he French?
He's French, yeah.
Right. So him speaking English or reading English, I never hear anyone say, "Well, he couldn't read the script because he is French, dude, not because he's a giant."
Yeah,
Okay,
no.
never
he
mind.
He was very nervous actually to
But yeah.
do this because he didn't think his English was good enough, and they were like, "No, don't worry about it. We'll help you." And
brilliant.
so of course, so we get our amazing Billy Crystal and Carol Kane scene, which is so funny. I think the two of them only shot on the movie for 3 days, and it's like the most
But-
amazing. Yes, what?
But the backstory is they had, they're both based in LA. Mm-hmm. They met before to create a complete backstory for their couple.
What?
Yeah.
Oh.
So they came loaded to bear. And because Rob Reiner has a long history and relationship with Billy Crystal, he knew and he just allowed him to kind of riff.
Do whatever.
But their chemistry so much, came from that they met before to give their Miracle Max and Valerie, the old witch couple, basically, backstory. Like
That's amazing.
That's like old school 101 acting. Like, let's get together and do a whole backstory history together.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so-
well, it's funny to think that Billy Crystal was 39 years old and she was 34. That is
They're
crazy.
playing like 80-year-olds.
I mean, and hellacious makeup situation. I
have
think.
fun storming the castle.
Oh yeah, I think Billy Crystal said they got to he did anyway. He got to the set at like 2 2 a.m, and they did 9 hours of makeup or something insane the first day. Like, they probably figured it out a little bit. No, what?
I know. Just
Well, he was kind of a
way
cute
too
guy
much
when he was
makeup
younger,
done.
so to make them both
I
look
mean,
the
they
way they
really
did.
looked like old prunes. It was amazing.
Ridiculously, I'm going to go all the way back to the beginning. Rob Reiner,
Back to the beginning.
did a makeup test with Peter Falk.
Oh,
He
yeah.
was only 60 when he was doing the grandpa role. And he's like, I don't know. Do I need to do some makeup? So they did a makeup test. Afterwards, Peter Falk was like, I look terrible.
Take that off.
Can we do it without the makeup? He's like, yeah, I think
You're
we'll
old
be
enough.
fine.
It's fine. Don't worry about
You
it.
look old and curmudgeon
And
enough.
If you notice, and I'm going instead of going all the way back, I'm going all the way to the end. The only scene that they didn't shoot in the studio in London with Peter Falk is him leaving and turning around and saying, as you wish, at the very, very end. His hair's not as gray as everything else.
What do you
Everything
mean?
else
Where did they shoot it?
They had to shoot in Los Angeles as a pickup
No, I didn't know that.
because it was a slightly different version of the ending.
Well,
Pickups are the bane of movies.
way to
can never,
jump to the end, Ed.
Whatever.
Yeah.
They can never
Peter
get.
Falk.
Somehow the hair is always different. How is
Yeah.
the hair always different?
How would you not?
How
get
can
the-
you not
it's
look and just
it's
get the hair right?
whitish gray, and then you just didn't dye it? Okay, I don't know.
Interesting.
But now we'll kind of, one of the greatest fight scenes now between Christopher Guest and Mandy Patinkin. I mean,
Yeah.
that was incredible, and he was able to revenge his father.
Yeah.
which was so
I mean, I guess
awesome.
Christopher Guest was also put through some pretty serious
for
training.
sure, yeah.
But not like Cary and
And he plays it
Mandy.
so diabolical.
Oh,
the
yeah.
character. It's brilliant.
But that turn and run, that first turn
the
and run
coward.
is just so great. Just like, what? Oh, bye. I mean,
nope, I'm out. So, and then, when Wesley has to confront Prince Humperdinck, but he's lying on the bed.
yeah. And he's still mostly dead.
Yes. It's just so good.
Oh, my goodness.
It's just, as a kid watching it, you're just going, it'll be a miracle if this works, or whatever that is, that line.
Yeah. Do you think it'll work? It'll be a miracle.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, when you back to the accents, like, Billy Crystal did kind of a New York Jew.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
It's like, what? The accents really were all
Yeah,
over the
She got some Yiddish in there too.
Yeah, supposedly that mutton sandwich bit, that was all an improv bit.
Nice MLT.
Yeah. When it's nice and lean. Like, what?
That's like a New York deli thing. like,
What? But wait a minute. Is there? Does anyone make a mutton sandwich?
no, but
Okay.
it's saying you cut.
Is mutton, like, is that
It's
lamb?
lamb. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Catherine said lamb. Yeah, well,
I don't
like
know.
old school lamb. I don't think anybody calls it mutton anymore.
No.
When it's nice and lean.
Oh,
Yeah. Oh, hilarious.
Liz, you need to do your impression now.
Of what, mutton?
Yes.
No.
Yes. Okay. Fine.
Mutton.
There we go. 4 for 4.
Mutton. All right. So I think, now we've really gotten to the point where, like, we're wrapping it up happily ever after, which is awesome for a fairy tale.
Yeah.
And I love the full arc that Mandy's, I love that Inigo Montoya is going to now be the next Dread Pirate.
Yeah. I mean, that's a great
I've been in the
full
revenge
circle.
business for so long. I don't know what else.
What
to
am
do
I
with
going to
myself.
do?
That's freaking brilliant, that character arc. You're like, oh my gosh, him and André the Giant are the perfect people to take over that line of business.
Yeah. Oh, God. Such a beautiful ending with the 4 horses. Did I do a good thing, boss? No. What did he say?
Oh, white horses.
And there's 4 of us. And the lady. Oh, hi, lady. Like, oh.
You finally did something right.
Which is, I kind of don't. That's one of the only
Good
lines
God.
that I
Wait,
don't
wait,
like.
let me
It's like,
jump.
he's been doing things right this whole time. Come on, Fezzik. He's
Fezzik.
amazing.
Yeah, no, there's just he was such a true gentle giant throughout the whole process that, he didn't get a lot of credit throughout. So that he actually gets some credit in the end, I think.
Yeah,
was
for
good.
sure.
Yeah.
Let me just tell one little anecdote about him during shooting. Apparently, because,
André the Giant.
Andre the Giant, giant man, apparently drank and ate like you can't even fathom. I mean, drank the pitcher of beer that was like his own cup size, and would drink like 3 bottles of wine and 25 beers, just like crazy. So during production, apparently, he overindulged one night, which does seem very hard for him to do, since
Okay.
it would and he passed out in the hotel lobby, and they then
His tolerance was so high.
yes, but at this, I guess
He's just a mountain at that point.
Okay.
and he ended up on the floor, asleep. They couldn't move him. Obviously, he was like 700 pounds or whatever. And so they ended up putting like a red velvet rope like around him. And then he woke up like in the morning and like...
I also heard Rob Reiner say on a audio commentary, they pulled a carpet over him to keep him warm.
Oh, that's sweet.
But he's so big, it was a carpet.
Oh my God, that's so
How
funny.
do you fly on planes?
I don't know. I mean, even hearing that he like couldn't get into a car
Right.
was like crazy to realize like, wow, yeah.
A traditional car, there's no way.
Oh no. I mean like maybe a van or a
Yeah, so just
I mean
think about the logistics.
of his life.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean but they all
He was
just
only
loved him.
7'4" and 520
I
pounds.
mean, just humongous.
And that, that he turned it into all mostly assets in his life between the wrestling and, you know, that he wasn't some bitter human being is just kind of amazing.
Yeah. Well, and that obviously he was in pain a good deal of the time.
Oh,
both
yeah,
from-
your bones and the weight.
and from wrestling. Because I guess, there was a discussion. I guess Mandy Patinkin was sitting down with him. He was like trying to bond with him because he's like, we're going to spend a lot of time together. We got to bond. And he's like, we're talking about this. We're talking about that. And then I was like, and then this wrestling, it's all fake, right? And André was like, no, like what? And Mandy was like, it was almost really bad. I mean, like.
He was insulted a little bit.
Yeah, and I wonder if, André was never faking it. So people were attacking him and like hitting him with wheelchairs.
The physicality of it is not fake. Yeah.
He
Well,
was.
you use different tactics when you're fighting a group of people versus when you're fighting against just one.
when
I'm
you're
out
fighting
of
against
practice.
a giant, basically.
Well, Ed is referencing the scene, obviously, where he's
passes out. He gets choked out.
It's like, I'm not used to fighting only one.
That's a really challenging piece of script and performance to understand versus when I read that in the book that like he actually came from a wrestling background. That's where Vicini found him. He used to put on shows where 6 guys would jump him and he'd be like bat, 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 money, beer, let's go.
Thank you.
So it made some sense when I finally like read the book. I'm like, oh, is that what he's saying? Oh, well, that was hard to understand.
One of the characters we forgot that there are no small parts in this movie. That is, the old saying in acting, like there are no small
make
parts.
It amazing.
Is the officiant in the wedding?
Oh, everybody loves that. Marriage.
Marriage. I mean,
yeah.
I just was an officiant, and there was a moment in my head. I'm like, don't get that in your head,
Don't do it.
because you're gonna mispronounce something by accident.
Well, for sure, people have had Princess Bride themed weddings where
for
they
sure.
actually have the Reverend say that.
Yes,
like do the whole dialogue. That's crazy.
I mean, if Cameo existed 30 years ago, people would have called up Peter Cook and hired him just to give him
100%.
We need the lines.
Yeah.
Oh my God, hilarious.
Even Game of Thrones, shame. I connected to boo.
Oh.
Boo. There's so many references. I mean, it is one of those movies that if you have not seen it in probably 10 or 20 years, if you have grandchildren of a certain age,
Oh, yeah.
if there's a teenager in your house, there's no reason not to go back to it. And they have done some modern things lately with it. There's talk about a remake that kind of got squashed. People are like, don't mess with perfection. But
Yeah, but the whole during the pandemic thing.
right. So during the pandemic, they did for charity where they did a live reading. And then, Ed, wasn't there something that happened on Quibi?
Right, which is a defunct app, but it's all available on YouTube now.
It's all streamed
they did
together.
a 10-part mini series where they allowed people to shoot scenes themselves
In their homes.
Oh, reenact them?
Celebrities reenacted the entire movie. So there's like 60 or 70 different celebrities that were in
What?
all of these different scenes. Let me see if I can pull
I
it
do
up.
remember
it's so
Jack Black
beloved.
was in it.
It's so beloved that it doesn't surprise me that there have been, tributes to it.
Oh, yeah.
And these
This was
type
just
of
a
charity
love fest,
reading.
yeah.
I know they've done some charitable readings that cast members have participated in. But, this is one of those things like, hey, Hollywood, don't touch it.
It was called the home movie, The Princess Bride.
Nice.
And I'll just list off like Wesley's.
Yeah.
Chris Pine, Common, Sam Rockwell, Neil Patrick Harris, Sophie Turner, David Spade, John Hamm, all played the character of Wesley or the Dread Pirate Roberts in
different
multiple
scenes.
different scenes. So they'd have someone that they were quote unquote acting with, and it would just be them at home shooting their half of the scene, almost like when you're sending your tape in for auditions.
It's a self-tape.
Yeah, self tapes.
So what is it called again?
Home movie, The Princess Bride,
It's available on
YouTube.
Another thing I want you, Catherine, do you know the name of the book? The Cary.
Yes, it's called As You Wish.
Oh, perfect.
And he wrote it in 2014. I checked out the audiobook from the library.
But it's probably available on Amazon and so on and so forth.
The audiobook, however, is fantastic because
He reads it.
and then other people do their own interview. Like, I don't know if he recorded them and then or they did it after, or like what.
Oh, how fascinating.
Not everyone, because William Goldman has passed away, and I think a couple other ones, and they're read by someone who does a very good job. But a lot of people read their own material or their their own bits. Whatever.
And like I said, if you want to watch The Princess Bride now, it's available on Hulu and Disney Plus.
Love it.
If you have those. And I also think Prime Video. And then you can get it on YouTube. You have to pay for YouTube. But if you pay for these services, Prime Video, Hulu, and Disney Plus, it's available.
Ugh.
And like I said, if you haven't
Anytime.
seen it in years, well worth going back to watch. And I just watched it with my son. I think only like last 2 or 3 months, because I knew we were going to do this huge fan podcast, and he loved it.
Yeah. I don't even know when is too young. I mean, do you feel like
I think
even Ginny's girls? I feel like
I definitely feel like
8, 9, 10.
Yeah, a 9-year-old and up is your. There's nothing really scary in it.
I think a 9-year-old might be in the spot where they're like, why am I not getting more princesses? Can I see the full costume? How about let's spend an hour in the castle? What's this swamp?
Maybe. You never know.
And you know what?
it
Actually,
is available on IMDb TV with ads for free. So you don't have to find it on YouTube and pay for it. You can just go into IMDb.
okay, if you don't have Hulu or
Yeah.
Disney Plus. But just what you just said, to finish on this, I have to give it to Robin Wright and the character Buttercup. This was one of the strong princesses, characters that we had not necessarily seen in previous fairy tales. That she was strong. She had her opinion. She was willing to fight for true love. And she was awesome. And so I think there's that element. She played it so straight and earnest that you believed in her. So, and pretty much set up a lifetime of a very successful career.
Yeah.
But, Robin Wright did an awesome job as Buttercup. I mean, God bless her. Just the name alone could have sent some actresses.
I know. Well, and I hate
off.
this word titular, but she is the titular character of The Princess Bride.
Although I don't think does Princess Bride actually, is that correct? Because she's the bride of a prince, or will be once we get to the wedding.
But he does introduce her as Princess Buttercup. So how is she a princess?
But are you forgetting that's the dream sequence where he's introducing as the princess?
Oh, well, I don't know.
All right, we can't resolve this now.
Not right now. All right. Thank you all for listening to Huge Fans. This has been so great. I want to go home and watch it all over again.
I know. I kind of want to watch it again with your input and insight.
I know.
I lived differently, especially that scene where he broke his toe. Poor Cary.
Oh my gosh. Ridiculous. And when he gets bonked on the head.
Yeah.
Yes. So please subscribe and definitely leave a review or comment and give us 5 stars and follow us on all of our social media, which is Huge Fans Podcast. Thanks
Thanks
you
for listening
to Huge
Huge
Fans.
Fans.